What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome back to Zer0 Thought. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about giving people opportunities to talk about themselves, and how much of a difference you can make in someone's life, or let alone someone's day, just by asking them how they're doing. And I'll start by saying that this whole little rant, that is really just off the top of my head, is coming from a place of personal experience. I've grown up throughout my whole life being asked, how is my day? I'd come home from school every day and my parents would be there, and I'm lucky enough to have two parents that would be able to greet me from home or as I get home and ask me, how is school? And growing up, I took it for granted. I think everybody takes it for granted. When someone asks you, how was school today? I was like, good. And then you ask you, did you learn anything today? And it's like, no, nothing. And it really kind of shut down, right? You get annoyed. You feel pestered by people asking you, how was your day? Did you learn anything? How was school? How was practice? How was meeting up with this friend? How was whatever, right? People ask. And I feel like until you realize what that actually means for you, it's taken for granted. It's easy to overlook. And you really only notice how much that does for you once it's gone. I spent an entire summer incredibly lonely. I was doing research in England, and I was pretty much living by myself. I didn't really have any friends there. Granted, I visited some for one weekend. I had to take a train ride for a while. It was a great experience, but really I was doing research in this lab where I was alone for 6-7 hours a day, maybe saw a few people here and there. I didn't know anyone in the local area, and I wasn't living with anyone. So I was an incredibly lonely person. Granted, I'm much more comfortable being alone than certain other people, but it really makes you think when you don't have people that you know care about you asking you, how was your day? You don't really have the opportunity to tell people about what you've been doing, what you were excited by, what you were frustrated with. And it really does build up. And there's actually a lot of research that talks about this. I was just in med school the other day listening to a lecture on adverse childhood events, ACEs, and it's about a relatively recent study that basically indicates that ACEs are a better indicator or marker for predicting health outcomes in the future than literally anything else. It could be even the kids of the children or of the mothers who had adverse childhood events. A lot of really cool stuff. All the data's online. There's sites about it. Highly recommend looking into it. But one thing that really stuck with me was asking, how can physicians make an impact? How can they really deal with or help treat these adverse childhood events? And one of the things you might think of is just to talk about it, right? It's not like you have to go to therapy, you have to go to counseling. It's just talking about it. And they found when they did a study with a relatively large sample size, granted, there are always limitations to any study, but take my word on that the data was pretty convincing. And if you're not convinced, you can take a look at the data yourself. I'm pretty sure it's publicly available. But they had a large sample of people that had quite a few adverse childhood events, and they followed them for a year or two as they went to their physicians and as they had various chronic health issues, likely in part due to these adverse childhood events. But they tested one particular measure, one particular treatment per se. They trained each physician to just ask them about it. They told them what adverse childhood events were, and each patient that came in with these adverse childhood events, they asked them, have you had any adverse childhood events? And they basically measure this via the question, how was your childhood? Was it kind of rough, or did you make it out all right? And if they said it was kind of rough, they asked, okay, do you want to talk about it? Yes or no? If they said yes, they listened. If they said no, they indicated, okay, well, if you're ever ready to talk or want to talk, just let me know. And every single person in this group experienced fewer hospital readmissions, fewer complications of chronic conditions, and overall showed an incredible improvement in their health over the year or two afterwards that they followed, just from this asking about adverse childhood events. Granted, you could attribute all of that to this one question or this one session. Probably not. There's probably other things, and there's a lot of chance for variable, but it's still pretty compelling when you have a large sample size that is all tested by this one uniform measure and all demonstrates better outcomes, when the typical, the normal outcome is that these chronic health concerns remain, if not get worse over time. And it really made me think, yeah, this really does matter. I was thinking about my own personal life. There's a friend who I've been trying to get to know a lot better over the past few months. I've known this person for a while now, but really trying to get closer to them over the past couple months. And it really sticks to me. I noticed that this person asks me how my day was. I realize that, I get home and my parents ask me how was school, but not even really dig that deep. But this one friend almost always asks me, how's it going? Hey, how are you doing? How has today been? And I really appreciate it. It's almost every day to know that despite the time difference, despite never meeting in person, this person cares. And I take that chance to talk about my day, to talk about the various things. Borderline knowing that it's okay. It doesn't really matter too much to an extent what I say sometimes, because this person doesn't know any of the people I'm talking about sometimes. And it's always helpful. It's always helpful to get those feelings out. I mean, of course, at the end of the day, I always have Lizzie that I can talk to, and I always do talk to about literally everything. But there's a lot to be said about not only giving people the chance to be vulnerable, to express themselves, their weaknesses, their strengths, what they're proud of, what they're frustrated with, but also to do so yourself. Because people are only going to get more comfortable with talking about these things with you if you share yourself. I'm in medical school, and med school is really tough for everyone. And this block I've been enjoying. I mean, cardiopulmonary, it's really cool. Honestly, all of med school is really cool to me, but this block in particular has been really difficult for me. And I was talking with one of my friends, and it always seems like everyone has their stuff together, right? Nobody looks like they're struggling, and so when you do struggle, it feels like you're the only one. And then of course you're too shy to talk about it. You don't want to admit that you're like the only one struggling out of all these people that look like they have their lives together. And my friend looked a little worn down, and I asked, how's it going? And she was like, it's alright, how is this block going for you? Now, I knew this person was struggling, and I mean, I was too. I'm pretty open about those sorts of things. And I said, it's actually been pretty tough. This has probably been one of the harder ones. I've been performing quite a bit worse than I have on the other blocks. Like, how are you doing? And she was like, I've actually been having a really hard time too. And we had a moment where we both came forward with our weaknesses. We admitted our faults and that we were struggling. And we had this moment where we kind of worked together and empathized with each other. And you come out of that conversation feeling a lot better. You feel like you're not alone. You feel like you have someone who's working together with you. And it means a lot. Not just to yourself, to your own health, to your own mental health, to, I guess, your physical health in a sense, because they are tied. But it means a lot to those friendships too, to those social connections, to feel more connected with people and like you're not alone, like people have your back, like people care about you. And life is a bit more fun when you care about other people too. When you can invest in someone and feel happy when other people feel happy, right? If you're only happy when things are done for you, or you have something very self-centered happen that's good for you, you're not going to be happy very often, because life doesn't work that way. Life is not good enough to each individual so that each person can only be happy, or each person can be sufficiently happy if they're only happy when good things happen to them. If you're only going to be really happy, or at least consistently happy, or a lot happier if you're happy when other people can be happy too. Wow, I said happy a lot. And I just wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get people thinking about it. I wanted to, even if it's just one person, motivate people that are listening to this to ask someone that they care about how they're doing. Make an effort not to have like a full-on conversation. You don't have to hop in a phone call, or you don't have to meet up with them, spend an hour grabbing lunch, but maybe just send a text. Maybe send a message on Discord. Maybe as you're brushing by in the hallway, say, hey, like, how's it going? No, how's it really going? Or if you see someone who seems a little bit down, that you think they might be afraid because everyone else looks like they have their stuff together, say, hey, like, are you doing all right? And just check in. That step, that reaching out, really does mean a lot. And when people do that for you, don't be afraid to open yourself up a little bit. Don't be afraid to admit that you're frustrated about something. Don't be afraid to, I don't know, be proud of something you did. It really goes hand in hand. And I think overall, it'll lead to a much better life experience. And honestly, I think that's where I'll leave it. I don't really have too much else to say on the topic. If you guys have any experiences, I mean, obviously I said, in the very beginning, this is my take, right? This is my own personal experience with this and the thoughts that have been derived from that. So let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know if you guys, when you maybe reflect on it yourself, really realize that there is someone that is reaching out to you, that's expressing they're interested in your life, that they care about you, and it does mean it. And you might have taken it for granted up until this point, but take the time to really appreciate that, and maybe let that person know that you appreciate them asking, because whether you're aware of it or not, it probably does mean a lot. And yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. I hope you guys learned a thing or two, or at least got the cogs spinning in your head about this topic. And let me know what you have to say about it in the comment section below. And if you want to have more of an in-depth conversation, feel free to join me on Discord. Whether it's in the PMs or in one of the chat channels, I'd be glad to have a discussion about it. Because, everyone's different, and it'd be really cool to get some new perspectives on it too. So, yeah. Until the next Zer0 Thought, this is Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.